everybody, and welcome to another installment of Queued Up on this beautiful Thursday, June 12th. We have so much to go over because the week has been jam-packed to only set up a better weekend, specifically for MIBR. This is actually the last highlight that we'll see throughout their entire weekend. We have the Blast Austin Open going absolutely buck-wild crazy. That major is set to conclude this upcoming weekend as well. Welcome back to Queued Up, where the lobbies are open, the mics are hot, and nobody is dodging. I'm your host today, Proper. Joined with me is PartyFoul, Tumbleweed, and ThugNasty. Yeah, what are you looking around for, man? You lost right now?
Scenes here, dude.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The new background.
Nice. I show up with a Super Mario Brothers t-shirt and not bring the business.
Exactly. Shout out to production.
Yeah.
For all the hard work they put on this. I'm liking the graphics. You guys like them?
I do like them.
Yeah.
It's been a really nice update as well. Shout out, of course, our TDs along the back end, Mr. Plover in particular, for working very hard to make sure that this is all set for your viewing experience throughout the entirety of today's show. But with all that being said, let's jump straight on into all of the action. We're going to be starting off with a segment called Around the League, which is a continuation as we have so many different esports leagues across the entirety of the globe. And we're going to be starting off the entire conversation specifically with Valorant. You saw that opening highlight right there from OSPOS, MIBR. They seem to have forgotten how to play the video game this upcoming weekend at Masters Toronto. The Swiss bracket is already all concluded. We know which teams are going to be going in towards the playoffs as well, but throughout everything minus the one-on-one matchups, those opening ones were certainly fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think Wolves Esports has been like the big surprise here for me, is I don't think anyone expected them to go deep and to qualify for the run. But I mean, just a fantastic performance coming from that team. And I'm not super surprised with Liquid getting knocked out by PaperX, but Wolves, I mean, I feel like they're the big story to watch from this Switch stage.
I'm actually excited that Team Liquid is knocked out. I really thought that they were one of the better looking teams in the Swiss bracket, and unfortunately that 1-1 draw going into those elimination matches, they drew PaperX, the other hottest team in this Swiss side, outside of Gen.G and Sentinels, obviously. But I think PaperX and Team Liquid both deserve to be in the playoffs over Billy and Wolves. That's just my take.
What's your biggest takeaway?
Well, I'm happy that Sentinels are getting their tournament buff and they're moving on up.
You would be.
Zealous, it's been popping off. We've been seeing them stand up, getting into some engagements with some other players, but seeing them 2-0 and move on has made me happy.
Yeah, so the Swiss bracket is fully completed as well. We're going to be taking a look at the one-on-one matchups a little bit more in depth here for a conversation. But for those that are unaware, Team Heretics, they bounced out 0-2. Not exactly what you want to see. They had a very tough matchup against that PaperX roster. And here is that graphic right now for you guys at home. Sentinels, Gen.G, they made through 2-0. I mean, fantastic for Sentinels, like Chris was saying, tournament buff as it may be. Then we got down to the 0-1 matchups, and that's where Team Heretics really got exploited by Wolves. MIBR versus TL and their 6-man roster. Now that Nats is back, joining them in that moment of time looked very good, and it's set up for a baller final day of Swiss matches. Those 1-1 matches in particular for that final one, hold on to your seats because we'll get into that in a second because we got to talk about Billy versus Wolves first because nobody, even the analysts on the desk, had Wolves beating Billy Gaming.
Yeah, absolutely insane performance by them. I mean, I'm new to Valorant. I talked that I'm still learning the sports. The Wolves, I mean, they're like an anomaly to me. So I just have their names here, but like, I mean, Juicy, what a beautiful name. Like, I'm cheering Juicy on the whole way. And I'm just really surprised with what they've got. And I think that, similar to like, kind of looking forward to Counter-Strike when we talk about that major, like I think we're starting to see our own upset storylines play out here. So it's, it's creating a possibility for me where I'm more interested to tune in because I'm not going to maybe see like G2 run this whole event, Gen.G run this whole event, etc.
I think, to be honest, if going into that June 11th matchup against Billy, I don't know how the desk still went with them after what Wolves did. Team Heretics, one of the hottest looking teams, and we thought was still, even after they lost to Fnatic in the EMEA final, still was the better team out of that region, and they just dismantled them and sent them home. So going into that, I thought Team Wolves was the best looking team for that.
Yeah, for sure. Look, let's put it this way. Chris, you and I spent a lot of time on Today in Esports talking about stats. We talk about a lot of the storylines as well. In the past calendar 6 months, it has been 1-3 for Billy Gaming. And to put it even further, the last time that they faced each other was in that lower finals in their own regional stage. And Billy didn't even drop a single map. But we talked about it back on Monday so many countless weeks ago. Teo is now out of the meta. We're working with a different composition now. This could potentially be Wolves at their best.
It can. And I think also the charismatic Sufat. He's just able to bring a lot to this team. Like, especially on their Ascent map, they just destroyed them after the side sweep, just completely swept them. So I've been really excited watching him because he just brings a lot of energy, and I think that's been helping propel them.
Yeah, and honestly, we'll see how far they can go because Wolves were certainly going to be counted out to even make it to the playoff bracket. Now we'll see them later on down the road. We'll be talking more about them in depth. But now with the juicy stuff, 6-man roster, Team Liquid, going up against PaperX, who, again, going into this meta, everybody, including all of the different podcasts based around Valorant, were highly rating PaperX to be very good in the non-Teo meta. But Team Liquid with Penny, the local talent, came to play.
Yeah, no, it was actually great to see. That's why I'm going back to my first point. The fact that PaperX had to play Team Liquid in this elimination matchup was tearing at my heartstrings because I was pulling for PaperX and I was pulling for Team Liquid. And the fact that they drew each other and PaperX goes up 11-1 to only come back in 12-12. It goes to overtime. You were up 11-1. They could have went home, and you couldn't have asked for a better elimination matchup.
Yeah, I mean, since you brought it up, I'm kind of like with the fans at home right there and be watching. Like, I'm knowing Valorant, playing Valorant. I don't understand the purpose of the 6-man roster here for Valorant. So, like, for those that are more educated, like, what's the purpose?
So Nats is their IGL, right? So Nats being their IGL, he was the one that was originally having visa issues. We'll table that because we'll discuss it later on in the show. But very important, obviously, having your IGL there, but not being in person, they had to make do. So Penny being a local talent, I think the last time he played was like some VCT America stage sometime last year in 2024, but he's a duelist main. And he came in and he had to fulfill a double smoke meta in that first one. They were playing like Omen, and it didn't really work out. He got to play Jet, and that's the idea of the 6-man roster, something we don't see all too often, something that you can actually relate to from League of Legends, both of you guys, in fact, with like the FlyQuest, with like the Blue up top. It's just a different proficiency for different heroes, but you got to see with Nats fully into it in between Serial and Penny, they were able to make do.
But I mean, we're talking about the 6-man roster. I think it was good that they kept Penny on, especially with how well he did against BLG. And if you have someone that's popping off like that, that just came in and maybe only had a couple of days of scrimming, then you added Nats on who actually did fairly well for having to come in last minute with the visa issues, because that's traveling straight into the tournament. And it sucks that they go out. Of course, PaperX is kind of one of those, you want to hype them up. At the same time, I was kind of just wanting to be like, okay, I kind of want them to move on because they've actually really worked really hard to try to get to the playoff stage. They just kind of fell short.
Yeah, they sure did. If you want to go back for full-on breakdowns throughout all of those days for the Swiss, we went through all of those days in full video breakdowns on Today in Esports on the Global Gaming Network channel. You want to join Pat throughout all of those endeavors. But that's going to do it, at least for the Swiss. We have the playoff bracket. It is fully set, gentlemen, and we can throw it up here for you as well. And as far as VCT is concerned, this is how they did it. If you were the #1 team from your region, so XLG, G2 Esports, RRQ, and Fnatic, you actually got to pick your opponent. And I want you guys just to briefly look at this because we're going to be going over our Pickems at the end of this show. So if you're watching at home, make sure you stay tuned. We're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty as far as this playoff bracket is concerned. But it is very interesting. But we'll keep the conversations within tactical FPS because at the time of this recording, we got some Counter-Strike going on, and there's some silliness as far as Stage 3 is concerned. This Legacy team seems to be a little bit of an issue, Cap.
Legacy, yeah, I've been hopping on this Legacy hype train now. So I told everyone in our group chats, I was like, guys, listen, in Stage 2, if Legacy go 3-0, I'm doing it, I'm locking in. They're going to upset Vitality, right, in the group stage. Because I've been learning how this bracket works, so I knew immediately when they qualified, along with Virtus Pro, I was like, cool, we get Vitality Legacy. Before we even get here, I'm locking it in. They're gonna
genius.
Yeah. And so I just doubled down on it. I just picked them to go 3-0, right? So we'll get to our Pickems. I don't know when we're going to show that graphic, but like I locked them in 3-0, Virtus Pro 3-0.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think like advice for people at home, if you're doing Pickems, I feel like that's the best strategy, even if you think Vitality is going to go 3-0, because in these best of ones, any upset's possible. So you open yourself up to more good teams that should go 3-2, 3-1.
Well, let's go and rip the Band-Aid off immediately. Like at the time that, like literally before we hopped into the booth today, June 12th, on this Thursday of the year 2025, Vitality lost in a best of one. And it was not competitive. So we'll go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off of there, but that's not the only thing that happened, Nick.
No, yeah, I think there's a lot of other crazy matches going on, but I think them losing that 30-0 streak kind of just unleashes them a little bit. And it's like they are the odds-on favorite to win, in my opinion, no question about it. The fact that you don't have to enter that playoff bracket with that on your shoulders only opens them up to play a little bit more free. Apex in the post-game interview was like, they had nothing to lose. They shouldn't have even been here. Yeah, they beat us in a best-of-1. It's like, now they've got that off their shoulders. Yeah. Everything's out of the way. They should be moving onwards and upwards.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, this is the best match possible that Vitality could have lost.
Yeah.
It's a best-of-1. It really, it doesn't mean anything in the grand schemes. I don't think that any of these teams, based on history, can beat Vitality in a series, right? Best of 3. So, like, for folks at home, I mean, you got a nice little upset at home. And we also saw Virtus Pro beat Mouse, right? Virtus Pro with their kind of their off meta.
Keep ripping off the band-aids, Cap. But yeah, that's a very real thing that happened, man.
I mean, it's just these upsets.
What is this Counter-Strike tournament?
Yeah, and we're Falcons. They went home. Right?
We don't even get to talk about them anymore.
No, well, we were gonna talk. Oh, we were gonna talk about it for sure.
Mine is simple. Putting Nico at number 10 in every list ever. That, if you haven't seen it, go watch Faye's social media. Simple does a little 10-player ranking.
Yeah, I do want to I do want to talk about the upset a little bit more. Like Vitality, like I've been talking with Dylan over from Skill Diff a lot about this. He's a big Rops fan and he's a big ZywOo hater, and I'm kind of like on board with that today because I feel like ZywOo didn't really show up. ZywOo was often like getting, he was caught off guard. He wasn't knowing what angles to watch. But Rops, they only got 3 rounds, but Rops was the credit for most of those rounds because he was really clutching up.
His adaptability does help Vitality out a lot, and it does kind of assist Apex as their IGL to be able to kind of maneuver and be able to adapt against everything.
He may not be the best player in the game, but he is definitely the best anchor.
Sure, for sure.
That's his role.
Barring Falcons, stage 2, stage 3, craziest thing that happened so far.
Ooh. I want to say the legacy going 3-0 though. I was like, and we'll talk about this a little bit more on our Pickems a little bit later. But it is great to see, and we talked about this a plethora amount of times. But them not being picked originally to go into this tournament, going 3-0, they're just surprising to me, everyone, and they've been a lot of fun to watch. And I'll have to defend myself a little bit later on Pickems, but we're gonna go into this. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, we're all going to be put on the chopping block one way or another, especially within the 4 walls here. And no show is safe on the Global Gaming Network channel. But let's go ahead and then move on away from like all stage 2, stage 3, as we were hinting at. We're going to be going over all of our Pickems as an office and as a desk later on towards the show. So if you wanted to skip towards that, I highly recommend you don't, because there's a lot more to discuss. Specifically this topic, Falcons out in stage 2. Sure, they lost to Lin Vision, had one of the coolest interviews in between all of stage 2 as well, both their coach and Amelia as well. But here's the thing. What do you do if you are Falcons? You were, within a calendar month, a top 2 team credited in the game. Do you make a roster change? Do you try to expedite any sort of movements? Or like, where do you go from here?
I think if you're the manager of Falcons, you have to stop talking about roster changes before they happen. You can't go into this major with that looming over somebody's head. It's going to affect them. It's going to affect the whole team. You just spent $2 million for Kaisuke, and he's not there. He's in the academy team, but he's nipping at somebody's heels, and the rumors have always been floating around that he's going to take that spot, and I think they played weird because of it.
Yeah. You got the driver's seat. What are you doing if you're Falcons?
I was on the same boat. If they're gonna rip it, they just have to rip it eventually. He took it. Yeah, he took it from me.
Smart man. Smart man.
A little bit off of it, but similar that they just kind of have to rip it off because we known for them to be a top team to eventually take it off Vitality. A change needed to be made eventually. It just wasn't working with the 5 that they have. Monacy comes in, but you still need that little bit of extra oomph to get them up to it. So I think, I'm not sure, Nick's probably right, where they have this looming, they come into this tournament looming over their head. They've been in United States for a while. They have, no round, but I just feel like they have to just rip it off and just go for it and then start moving upwards for the rest of the year.
It feels like they are missing firepower, but I also agree with the sentiment that you just shouldn't blow up the roster. How do you feel about this, Kep?
I mean, I think that the roster really just rides on Nico and Monacy right now.
That's valid.
And unfortunately, I don't think Nico really showed up. I mean, Nico, I'm not surprised by these outcomes, right? Because a lot of these teams are playing some really off-meta styles, really aggressive. And so for Falcons, they train to be the roster that beats Vitality, so we're trying to play that slower pace, traditional Counter-Strike, so to speak. I don't think that they were prepped for this off-meta style, and I think it showed. And Nico really struggled to get any type of momentum in the map, but Monacy, he's always the staple, so obviously based on results, not worth the money, but from a pure player output perspective, worth the money. And I never know how to say his name. Is it
Kisoke.
Kisoke.
They're still arguing about it.
We even watched a video on this show about it, and I still don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody ever will.
Kisoke, I mean, being $2 million, I think the rumors he's going to replace Testis.
Sure.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I think he needs to prove his mettle first, right, before you replace Testis, because Testis has had a lot of good moments.
Do you think his time on Spirit Academy hasn't been enough? Like, he needs time spent in a pressured matchup, whether it's a high-level face-it match against other Mouse players, Vitality, all that kind of stuff?
It's got to be a whole different league when you come up here and you're playing against the likes of Vitality, Mouse, Mongols. To a degree, right? So you're dropping all
the Mongols.
Yeah, of course, baby. You're spending all this money, to go on this player who's not really that tested. You're buying into the rumor mill that he's the next donk,
right?
And let's face it, $2 million for a donk, that sounds like a steal, which is crazy to say. But if I was in that position, I had the money to spend, and donk was available for $2 million. That's an easy buy for me, right?
For what it's worth, gauging currency of Counter-Strike players and how many donks you're worth, I think we need to start thinking about that a little bit further. But we'll talk a little bit more about Counter-Strike as we get into the office Pickems again at the end of the show. We're going to be moving over towards League of Legends more exclusively, and that's why I'm very happy to actually have both Kep and especially Chris on this desk. And today in esports, this guy, he runs my ear through the entire muck through all of Summoner's Rift, and I'm thankful for it because finally, it feels like I'm saying this, finally, LTA North are getting into playoffs.
They are.
To the final bits of playoffs.
Yes, final bits. Yeah, we're a little bit behind LEC. They're a little more, but let's look at this now. So we are finally in the final runnings for it. Shopify Rebellion, massive run. C9, though, have finally been proving themselves to be the team that they wanted to pick up when they have gotten Loki and Thanatos. They finally took FlyQuest to a Game 5, one of the first teams to finally take them. But we have both now in the playoffs, Shopify and C9, both teams who have taken games off FlyQuest. What do you guys think?
I think that I wish Davis was here, because Davis would do this a lot better than I
Well, he's not. He was the one that dodged the lobby today.
Yeah, Davis dodged. We say nobody's dodging. Clearly, Davis dodged today.
Clearly.
But Davis would be here. He'd be preaching for Shopify. He'd be preaching for contracts and fudge. And I want to do that because I love the underdog story. But I just cannot see a world. I also didn't see it against Liquid because they had never beat Liquid then. But I can't see a world where C9 beats Shopify. So I want to buy into this hype here, and I think that's the story that everyone's in. But I'm worried we're just going to have another C9 versus FlyQuest finals.
Yeah, I think there's just three, and again, Chris, everything I know about League of Legends is through Chris. However, what I have deducted from that is there's definitely a tiers to LTA North, and FlyQuest is at the top of it. Cloud9 isn't far behind and can win any given day, and I think it's everybody else. So we'll see what happens this weekend. I was proven wrong this weekend because I even thought Liquid was going to take that one. Unfortunately, they caught him on an off day, and Shopify got the best of them. But I'm not trying to say that Shopify don't belong, but they don't belong.
Me and Chris said they don't belong, and here we are. We got upset. Yeah.
At the end of it, it's mostly going to come down to just the way that you play the Fearless. Whoever ends up going into FlyQuest, whoever wins that lower final matchup, of course, you do end up going to EWC. I think that we need to do that quick little laundry list check to make sure everybody's aware. If you win that lower finals, you do go to the Esports World Cup. But if you win that grand finals versus FlyQuest, you're going to MSI as LTA's North representation. Again, for LTA, you do have the North and South as far as that all is concerned. Here's the bracket just to show you guys what we're all talking about here, how things are going to be shaken up. But yeah, Shopify Rebellion beating Team Liquid to Nick's point, even walking away with that 100 Thieves win, as decisive as it was. People were not prepared for this Cloud9 Shopify Rebellion. And whether you have Copian running dry or not, it really all depends on that Fearless, in my humbled opinion. But we're going to be going over to the nitty-gritty as far as these last few matches are concerned, but just make sure you guys understand the severity of it all. You win LTA North, you end up going to MSI, the next international tournament for League of Legends. But that's going to do it for Around the League thus far. Let us know what you're most excited for in the weekend's competitions of Counter-Strike, Valorant, League of Legends. You let us know in the comments down below. Get engaged in the conversation. We're going to be moving over towards the big story, backed by popular demand. Just so everybody's aware what this is, all of us guests, myself included, we brought what we think is one of the hottest yet untalked points of interest in the timeline sphere throughout the entirety of the week. And we're going to be starting off with Nick.
Yes, we again, unfortunately, we have talked about this a little bit, but this story has kept me on the edge of my seat over the past couple of weeks. First, you hear Nats. Visa got denied. He's not going to be able to make it. There's some timing issues. He might be able to come a little bit later. You don't know what's going to happen. We do our power rankings here at the office, and we're like, no Nats, no IGL. This team's in the dumps. They're 0-2 quick exit. They're out of here. Take Billy to game 3. Huge. Penny played great, the hometown hero who we've already talked about. Serial did okay as well, right? Nats tweets a picture of him on an airplane. Guys, I'm coming. The visa cleared. We're on the way. We're like, oh no, there might be a chance. They look great in map 2, but you're like, Nats coming back. Who's he going to play for, right? Like, oh, it's got to be Penny. It's got to be the guy who subbed in. They're like, no, wait a minute. We're going to go Serial. And that was a little confusing to me as well. If you look at the stats from the Billy series, he was the only player in the lobby who had a positive first kill to first death ratio. And the entire lobby didn't play the worst. So again, it goes back to Andy's point from earlier of like, it's just about the composition of Penny's looking hot, Penny's playing well, agents they can play, current meta, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Serial was happy with the decision. He was like, cool, I'm part of the 6-man roster. Next man up, let's take it, whatever it takes to win. Looks great. They beat Heretics handedly. Go against Paper Rex. Unfortunately, game 3, overtime, down 11-1. It's just written off to almost there. Crazy story, everything in between. It was just great.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes down to a 6-man roster, like we were already talking about, the compositions are obviously a difference. If Penny's feeling hot on a raise, although I think that it was like that map too, like he absolutely fumbled the bag on the agent pick, but like it's still like if Nats as the IGL for this team, who went through trials and tribulations just to make it, you would figure I would go with that man's call. His mouth was moving like faster than Celium's if you understand the Call of Duty reference, which is just insane. But it was nice to see.
Yeah, there was a picture of him in that map 3 when they were down, I want to say 12-5, and you could tell he was just giving a speech, and everybody was listening, everybody was nodding, and they just kept the momentum going forward. It was great to see.
Trust the IGL.
It sounds like you're saying Penny should just be the guy. I think he should be the 5th man.
I don't know. I think he needs to go back to challenge.
It's like the composition difference, especially for Valorant. Again, Teo being nerfed, you can't really lean on it. If you have Penny into the roster, who is much more prolific at the duelist comparatively to both Serial and Nats as well, you would think double initiator comps would probably be a little bit more on the bargain. That's where we've been seeing the meta kind of go.
Yeah, and so I'm usually not for 6-man rosters. I've said this time and time again, but obviously a visa issue is a separate issue within that entirely. Right. And then, but when I think you have someone who plays so well meshing into the team as Penny did, then it does make a little bit of sense. And obviously, they probably had a long talk about this before they went into it. And it's not like they had a horrible run and they lost to Team Heretics. No, they beat Heretics and then took Paper X to the distance at the end. So it wasn't necessarily the wrong choice. It could have also been other issues for it. So I'm a little okay with this 6-man roster. We'll have to see how it plays out later and then what happens to Penny regardless after this. But
yeah, I mean, look, he was literally like within an hour's reach of the stadium. So like, you get a local talent, he does really well for you. Do you fly him back over to EU and compete in the next stage? I don't know. We'll continue the conversation from Falcons. If you're in the comments and you're the GM of TL, what do you do with Penny, Serial, and Nats? What's going to be the composition going forward? But that's it. That's a great big story because that's a conversation that's going to be continuing in TL's future for whatever that roster might entail. But now moving over towards our next big story. Chris, what do you got?
So, League of Legends, we have a leak of a possible change to the client and champion select. I'm not sure we have that video if we can throw it up first, because it'll be a little easier to explain afterwards. But a really big change to champion select is coming, and I think it's going to benefit in a great way for everybody. So I'm not sure if we have that. We can throw it up yet. Yep, here it is. Okay, so as you're picking champions, you are now able to hover it, check attributes, check the champion, check their abilities. And I did see something else, I believe, as well. So when it's actually picked, you can hover over it, check the ability of the champion, check what they do. Obviously, if they're a mage, if they're, a tank, et cetera, et cetera. And this game has 170 different champions in it right now.
Not that many.
As a new player, and one of the biggest, drawbacks to League of Legends for any new person coming in is, being able to learn what the champion does, because that is pretty much a majority of the game. If you don't know what a champion does, you're going to get rolled over by it because I didn't know Mbessa could do 50 different, dashes onto me. How was I supposed to know that? And then she's just going to execute me at the end of it. This is going to help out. I believe this is going to be a big change in League of Legends to help bring new players into it so that they don't feel overwhelmed. Or if they see a champion that they've never seen before, they can at least click it without having to go to 50 different websites to try to figure out what they do.
Yeah, I'm really torn on this feature. I mean, I hope that I can opt out of it, like I can turn it off. Because
Just
I'm
an extra pop-up, right?
Well, yeah, I'm also seeing narratives where like I already have people like waiting till the last second to lock in their champs and champ select, and so now I'm like worried that they're going to be watching this movie in the client, and you only have like 40 seconds to lock in your champ, right? So they're going to be watching this video of these highlights and trying to read this text for different champs. It just further diminishes the time they have down. They already natively have in the client where you can go to your champion pages, you can see their abilities, you can see videos on them now. So like it's nice to have. But I don't know, like if I'm a new player, I don't want to focus my new player experience on when you have a limited amount of time to lock your champion. I want to try to navigate it in a different way.
So what I was talking about and they didn't show here is that if someone locks in, say like enemy locks in Warwick, right? You yourself can check what the Warwick does. I don't see it being used as the person trying to pick a champ is going to look to see what it does. I'm more of thinking it's going to be used for that new player of saying, I've never seen Mo before. I've never seen Mbessa before.
Learn their moves. You can learn the matchup.
They show the one on the right. I can click it.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The video didn't show that. That's way more useful.
That as far as the quality of life change is amazing because like Chris said, I mean like the 170 plus champions. They're not stopping anytime soon. I mean, by the time we get to Worlds, we're probably going to be somewhere near 200 for crying. Probably not, but like that's
they do like 2 a year now. So.
But you understand like the semantic behind it. It's so difficult for new players to go in to be able to learn that matchup. I mean, I haven't played League in like 2 years, and I thought I could just still insta-queue mid lane Lysandra. Boy, was I very, very much so confused when I had a deer running at me when Lilia first came out. So yeah, I think it's a great quality of life change. It's a great shout, Chris, because I think going forward, League of Legends will be a continued grow esport because it definitely is beautiful. It's got so many different factions from TV shows, music, and everything else. This is just another good QOL to keep players engaged. But now moving on towards our next story is actually going to be me. I get to say my little piece right now. Tetris, as far as the competitive esport, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but Tetris had a community-organized tournament this past week that actually shattered viewership. And I know we were spending all this time talking about like, oh, but Counter-Strike was breaking peak viewers and Valorant looked amazing. 50,000 people sat down to watch two people play Tetris. Guys, we were playing this when we were 5 on like an Atari or like a Nintendo, whatever. Like it's very, very weird for me in the competitive esports scene to be able to see something like this, but as a long lover of just competitive esports in general, I think that this is a good step in the right direction. It kind of like tips the hat to like chess.com almost, like how chess you could almost say like it is an esport. Like that is a challenging game to be able to play so consistently along the way. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, like that's like a weird fun fact is like I've watched a few documentaries on Tetris Championships before, and like the amount of depth that goes into like how they hold the controller, how they have to play on certain TV types. It truly is just like a lost art, right, so to speak. But like the people that play it are really committed, and you can always compete. And they will be moving so fast that I'm like, I don't even know how you. But it has to do with like you're not actually pressing the buttons. There's some kind of method to like tap, right? Like to tap on your leg.
You're rolling your fingers in the back of the controller.
Like the amount of depth that goes into it almost reminds me of like fighter communities, right? Like it's just like the fighting game community, but in Tetris. I don't know, it's weird. But I love Tetris, like the Tetris BR that came out on the Switch. One of my favorite things I've ever sat down and played. Yeah.
There's always a scene for nostalgia, and I love seeing any esport flourish. I know a lot of social media just focuses on the negative, so love seeing something positive, and especially from an old-timey game.
Yeah.
You gonna go pro or what?
Not going to go pro, but I was going to say, I love during AGDQs, SGDQs, where they have the Tetris parts of it. Obviously, it's not a, esport, and they're not battling. Well, sometimes they do battle against each other, but obviously seeing them go through it, I love watching those segments because I'm like, I don't know how they do it. They just clear out those levels instantly. But then seeing people pit against each other like this, I'd watch it. If I knew it was on, I probably would watch it. Also, if there weren't 500 other things, that we had to watch, this weekend as well. But, it could be something good to throw up at the end of the day also.
Yeah, I'll probably put it on tonight, actually.
There's some nerdy YouTube videos out there, Promise Me You, and come back to the comment selection and future GGN videos as well, because you go watch some of these videos about how the mechanics do work from it's not, like Kev was saying, it's not just you're pressing the button continuously, you're actually rolling your fingers on the back, and The APM is absolutely astounding. But for our final piece, for our final big story, Tumbleweed, Mr. Kep, what you got?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the Xbox Game Showcase that happened. It was like last week now. It feels like time rolls so much. But we had a lot of big games announced, right? So I sent a tweet over to production. They showed up of all the games announced. But I think headline, right, because we're an esports focused show, is Black Ops 7 for Call of Duty, despite your feelings on it. But all these games that they announced, Gears of War Remastered, Ninja Gaiden 4, Grounded 2, Keeper looked really niche and weird, Outer Wilds 2. I mean, there were so many games here that looked good that you just have so much stuff to look forward to from the Xbox side of things. All of it, it's all going to be what they're calling Xbox Play Anywhere now. So you can play it on your console, you can play it on PC. For a long time, there was like a divide. Some things were console only with Game Pass, some were PC. But just the fact that you have all this stuff open up to you. But what's missing from this image that mostly relates to our show from the esports side is the teaser for next year. Next year is going to be Xbox 25th anniversary. Crazy considering that I bought the first one on day one. Doesn't even make sense. But it's like, this is your 25th anniversary for the console. They've already said we're going to have new Forza. Doesn't really matter as much, but hey, maybe Forza should have an esport. Gears of War E-Day, new Gears of War to look forward to. That esports scene is insane.
They're chomping at the bit to come back.
They're ready for it to come back.
Yeah, and then they didn't officially say this, but big teaser, big probably from my man Nick over here, new Halo Combat Evolved. I mean, talk about Combat Evolved remastered with online and some cool stuff. I would love to see Nick and team of Envy over there on stage competing in that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be our holdover until the next Halo comes out. It's going to be another remake of a remake. Yeah. Unfortunately, as much as I loved the game, I think something else that we'll talk about later is we need some more new IP and quit remaking the same thing. Just not necessarily new IP, but just a new game in general. And I'm excited for Halo Combat Evolved remastered, but.
Not counting Master Chief Collection remastered?
No, that is the remaster. That's the remaster. I guess it would be like the third time that Combat Evolved.
Well, yeah, because they remastered it so you could play older, new graphics. For the Xbox 360, and then they remastered it for MCC, and then they're remastering it for PC.
That's where it's like, as big as a Halo fan as I am, through and through, it's like, all right, give me something else.
I just want that pistol back in my virtual hands. That's all I want. It's right there. It's been 3D printed, and I want it back in my hands. But I mean, Chris, you and I are pretty big PC gamers. I mean, I grew up playing on the Xbox. I'm sure at some semblance you had a console as well. What jumps off for you as far as the Xbox showcase?
I like the fact that, as he said, it is coming, that they're not going to have the big divide between PC. I most likely won't get a console. I mostly only play our consoles here because they're ready and available. But I have tried Game Pass. I really liked it because I played, Expedition 33 off of it, which was one of my favorite games of this year, which would have never been possible without Xbox Game Pass. So that they're going to, close that divide where I can play more games off of it, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Well, that's it for the big story. Thanks, guys. Those were some pretty big headlines just to be talking about throughout the entirety of today's show. And keep in mind, throughout the weekend, if you find any bigger stories, make sure that you get with us on social media or in the comments down below, because we're going to continuously talk about some bigger headlines. But now we're moving over towards a household favorite. It wouldn't be a queued up episode without it. It is Clutch or Kick. Get your signs ready, gentlemen. And if you're unfamiliar with how this does work at home, we have a whole bunch of different topics that we came prepared with to today's show, myself included. But most importantly, for these three gentlemen flanking me around this desk, they had to sway my decision and what could potentially be a super clutch or a super kick. I was going through a lot of these selections. I know that most hosts like to be kind of floored by this naturally, but I'm feeling a little malevolent today, so good luck to you guys. First clutch or kick, go ahead, try your best, Cap. What you got?
Oh, I'm up first. Okay, so my clutch or kick. Counter-Strike 2 is a better game than Valorant. Now, I know what you're reading here. You're saying, but Kep, we all know Counter-Strike's a better game than Valorant. Well, the general American population does not, and I've got an example of a tweet that I want to put on screen for you guys of the perfect American man who thinks that Valorant's a better game. So production, if you could show this tweet when you get a moment here. We had Jake Lucky who tweeted the stats where Counter-Strike more than doubled the views of Valorant, and this was during the MIBR Falcons game, just simply stage 2. We have 1 million versus 530,000, and there's an American band there. You might recognize his name, Patrick Hollifield, Akibab. Numbers don't mean anything.
What show is that man on?
He's on Skill Diff, second-rate show. They don't do good tips all the time. Numbers don't mean anything. Both are healthy games, not going anywhere. But I will say this: Valorant is the better game, hands down. And guys, Valorant, let's face it, it's losing in all regards. The skills are more complicated for viewers when you're sitting down with mom and dad to watch this esport and you see a wave of colors take over your screen. Mom and dad don't understand what's going on in that game, but you know what? In Counter-Strike, they know what a smoke is, they know what fire is, and they know what happens when you tap domes and people fall over. So CS2, better game than Valorant.
It's not even close.
It's not even close.
It's not even close how much of a kick this is. And this is no disrespect to Counter-Strike in any way, shape, or form, but Valorant is Counter-Strike plus. It has so many more layers to it. Forget the viewer experience. We're talking about the game itself. It's so much better with abilities. It adds a different layer to the entire game. Love it through and through.
You know, most people disagree about the abilities. I digress.
Oh, it's my opinion. Kick.
Oh my God! Of course, the league guy likes the ability.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly it. It is the league guy liking abilities, and that is a majority of where it's coming from for me.
Particle Effects is his middle name, by the way.
Yeah, that's the PF and PartyFoul in between.
Ooh, whoa! Learn something new every day.
Yeah, for me, obviously, Counter-Strike is fun, but there are a lot of times where it just feels like they're sitting there. I like watching things go boom, even if they're nerfing Teos, rockets all over. We're seeing bias, we're seeing everything coming all over the screen. I think it adds an extra element. Now, do I think that they can tone it down a bit to make it where gunplay matters a little bit more? Sure. Yes, and I hope they do work towards that. Yep. But I think the abilities, if they were to get the gunplay right, plus abilities, would make it a much more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, and yeah, from that dev update, they will be updating to like further lessen the abilities as we go along. But Kep, you set it up so easily. That's a super kick, my good friend. Look, like
Davis isn't here.
At this current moment in time, Valorant will hold a very special place in my heart. Again, I come from Overwatch, so it's a very easy thing for me to understand Valorant at its core level. I've been playing Counter-Strike for about 25 years at this point, and I'm not saying that it's the same game because CS2 comparatively to CSGO and even 1.4 Source are so infinitely different, but it's almost too stale at this point. I'm here for the better color grading. I'm here for the better abilities, and overall, I'm here for just the overall flair of like the characters each have like their own flair as well. Like the in-game banter, this is way too good. Instant kick, that was a good clutcher kick, Kep. You really tried your best, but you got absolutely slammed.
Davis, I took it for you, buddy. I hope you're having a good vacation wherever you are. Someone had to get the super kick.
Somebody.
All right, next is up for my clutcher kick, which my tweet may not have everything to say with it because it's much more of a broader statement. Paying the Supermax for players is not worth it. And I'm specifically targeting this at the Falcons. They paid way too much money for Modesty, apparently, because that kid forgot to spawn in at the Austin Major. And yeah, here's the G2 CS team tweeting out, "Hello, Falcons, G2 here, no refunds." Yeah, you spent all that money and you didn't even make it to stage 3. It is so rare that you get to spend the money on a super team and it pays off. It was happening with LA Thieves now for Call of Duty. At the beginning of the season, everyone was like, oh, you spent millions of dollars on Scrap and Hydra. What's it going to be working out? Now I'm seeing it happen with the Falcons, and they're about to be spending even more money. Paying the Supermax for a super team is not the wave. I think that a composition and for a team to be working well together to go far, you need that teamwork. Shout out Vitality.
I'll go first. I'm gonna do. It is a little bit of a salty kick again, but I also
that's targeting.
Yeah, I also do think it's a kick. I mean, a lot of times we've seen, super teams have been letdowns, but I mean, because you specifically referenced Falcons, it's pretty open. Like they've talked about it. They're not in their final form yet, so they're still assembling the super team squad. They don't feel like they have that form yet. Monesi, easily worth the money. I mean, he is your best player on the team, bar none. And so I really think that they got their money's worth there. And I think Kaisuke, he will also be a good purchase based on the rumors.
That's even how you say his name.
I don't, yeah.
We'll get back to it. I am like right in the middle, unfortunately.
You got to pick one.
There's part of me that says
it
doesn't work, but it's...
Think about if Envy gave you a blank check, you could buy whatever roster you want. Right? Think about it that way.
All right, then we're going to kick it out then. We're going to...
It went clutch.
Oh, wait.
You got to clutch it up now.
No, you know what? I actually do, because I don't think it's the money and the teams and the players, and always sometimes the 4 best players or in the league wouldn't be the 4 best players on a team, or 5 or 6, depending on the game. So, yeah, I'm going to have to agree with this, that just money can't buy championships and rings, even though I'm a Yankees fan. So it's kind of weird.
Double standard.
Hey, for the past 10 years, we've been like 5th in salary. We're good.
So I'm a coach on this. So I did not read everyone's coach or kicks because I was trying to follow in how we do everything and be surprised.
Chris.
If I were to kick this, I'd be a hypocrite. No, you guys will find out why later. But I am on the agreement that it does not work. And you'll hear my thoughts on this also in a bit during mine.
Ooh.
All right. Well, 2 for 1. I don't even know what that means. Like it's like a half clutch.
Just
a clutch.
It's just an average.
Well, so far I'm beating Kepley, and that's all that matters in my book. So
pretty easy.
that's good.
We're keeping score again. Now we're keeping score.
Yeah, I'm pretty deep down on the wins here.
Hey, look, new host, new rules. Points don't matter, and the games are all made up anyway. So now moving into our next clutch or kick. Nick, what do you got?
I've got a tweet saying that Marvel Rivals player base is falling down. And I know Kep's going to insta-kick this, but I don't care, right? This game is going to be fine, and the esport is going to be great. If we're talking about a developer that's putting a lot into their game, it's NetEase with Marvel Rivals. Today, actually, a perfect time to even talk about this conversation. Stage 1 of Marvel Rivals Ignite Regionals starts tonight. Some of the EMEA matches have already started today. We get some NA later on this evening. It's going to be great. It's a $3 million tournament.
Yeah.
These aren't chump change numbers. You could put on Tetris tournaments for the rest of all of our lives with $3 million and then some.
Right now, only because it's 50,000 viewers, but
Don't you put Tetris down like this, buddy.
All right, what do you got? What do you got? He's about to go crazy. What do you got?
We're putting Tetris down. But overall, this game's going to be just fine. Damn.
I'm kicking it.
That's fine.
He kicking it.
So, I mean, we've seen what happened with Overwatch.
Oh.
Marvel Rivals isn't doing any better, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to be able to balance it. It's cluttery. It's confusing for people who just watch off the rip. I think people will only watch it for its novelty at the beginning because these are kind of our first tournaments that are coming out of it. Once we have this first initial tournament, I think it'll start falling off at the end and it won't really be able to pick back up.
You know, it's actually really funny. 2 different things. One, this is the particle effect guy, by the way, that just said he didn't like particle effects. And 2,
Yeah, that was.
I was trying to catch up. I like Dota particle effects, which I think overtake everything.
Yeah. But like Overwatch and Marvel Rivals, like the third person, like it is way too good. And again, as somebody who like my commentating esports career took off in Overwatch, specifically like commentating over top of like peak goats, like triple tank, triple support, it was madness to keep a part of. I can load into Marvel Rivals and I could enjoy and watch and have a really good time. But funnily enough, Prod told me I had a counterpoint to yours, and it was that same exact tweet. I'm going to go ahead and kick the heck out of this because I don't think that it has enough sustainability nor balances to be able to keep the game at a competitive level to at least uphold integrity for another year.
I'm going to give you a moment.
Fun.
Define great to me.
Yeah, I don't even know if I said great esport. I don't know where the direct.
Marvel Rivals will be a great esport. Yeah, no, you typed that.
Oh, okay.
Great. So like,
can I say something else and then
like
clarify?
Frosty Flakes.
It's one short sentence.
Go ahead.
At this point in time, since Valorant came out and when Rivals came out, about 6 to 8 months, they're both at the exact same part with player base and tournaments. The only thing that ruined Valorant, in my opinion, is franchising, which we talked about on last episode. Marvel Rivals said they already don't want to go that route, so I think it sets it up for further success down the road.
Here's where I'm at because I love Marvel Rivals playing the game. I still play it a little bit to this day. From the esports perspective, I'm kicking it for very specific reasons. We already see Ninja's announced that he's not going to play the game anymore. And I think Tim the Tapman is following shortly behind him. And then that leaves your other big titan is Shroud.
Yep.
And the only reason Shroud is so invested in it now is because Shroud has an esport. I think Shroud is going to face some losses and his team will eventually underperform. He won't want to keep paying those fees. And then he's going to leave. And at that point, without either of those 3 names, is Marvel Rivals what it is today? I would argue no. It's still going to be a fun game to play. Don't get me wrong, but it's why the same thing with Overwatch that I've been dying on the hill of Marvel Rivals. Those games should be made to have fun with. Yeah. They don't necessarily need a big esports scene, so it's okay for a game to be competitive without having an esport in my mind.
I like that. I respect that. We got 2 super kicks so far, and I got to say, I thought I was the one feeling benevolent, but it seems that we're all just feeling very debating today. Can you save us? What's your clutch?
Maybe.
Kick.
My clutch art kick is We have seen the fall of Rogue and then Navi's acquisition Rogue. So, of course, with this comes new contracts across the board. Larson is a mid laner for Rogue now, Navi, and he's only able to stay on Navi because he is taking a contract cut. Now, a little bit behind him, many of you may not know, he actually was one of the highest paid players in the LEC, sitting on an 8th place team in a decreasingly, team that's just been going down. I like this. I think it's good that Navi has looked at his contract and says, we're cutting it. If you can take a pay decrease, you can play. If not, you may have to look for something elsewhere. This is why, of course, I clutched the super kick, or I had to kick, the painting. I just think that orgs need to be able to go in yearly to look at their players and say, if you are not producing what we expect, you may have to take a pay reduction or go for it. I think these massive $1 million contracts aren't worth it unless they are advertising themselves well, like Baker, who's able to bring in multiple, probably $1 million, dollar sponsorships because they want him. But if you have a player like Larson, who is somehow getting paid one of the tops on an 8th place team, he has since then, before MKOI was KOI, they were just KOI. They were acquired from Rogue. KOI acquired them. They were 6/8. They got reacquired by Rogue, still 6/8. And he's coming in from 2 years being one of the top paid players for multiple years on a lower place team, and they are not doing well at all. So I think it was a good job by Navi to say, okay, look, you have one choice or the other, and we're going to reduce your pay. I think more orgs should be doing this as time goes on, and it shouldn't be multiple million-year deals. It should be annual. How is your performance from last year going into next? If you don't like it, you have to go.
I'm going to clutch this. I wholeheartedly agree. I have seen so many big numbers being used. Like, if you guys remember when Evil Geniuses won that Masters tournament, the dollar amount that some of those players were asking for was egregious. You won Masters, that's great, but if you ran a second or a third and you were running the entirety of the league, maybe that Supermax could be beneficial to you. But I genuinely think that if it's for the love of the game and you're still making a sustainable income for where, let's be honest, if you're competing in North America, you're probably in the Dallas area to live comfortably in wherever area you're in, I would take that every day. Because at that point, then it's not the love for the game that's pushing it. At that point, it's just the dollar. I'm going to clutch that. That's good.
I think I'm nitpicking your details here. I agree with the sentiment. I'm kicking it just because when you lock in that contract, it's not... Players will, they will have their on years, they will have their off years, but it's on the person who's writing the contract to set those terms. So it is possible now that they could look per year contract, but these players are looking at stats, they're looking at analytics, they're trying to moneyball it, right? And they're saying this player is projected to perform this well. Let's lock him in for 8 years. That's not the player's fault, right? The player is what any of us would do. They're taking advantage of a good opportunity. They think they're going to perform well. None of these players are going to come in saying, yeah, I'm not worth all this money. I just think that the devil's in the details there.
Nobody's saying that.
It's already happened now.
That's exactly what I'm saying, that Navi is doing the correct thing. That was my cultural kick, is that Navi is doing the right thing coming into the LEC, saying that we're looking at this team, we're going to relook at contracts on how they're performing, and then we're going to go off of that. So I think they're doing absolutely the right thing, and other orgs should follow if they're doing the same thing.
Yeah. But if they agree that I'm going to pay Nick for 4 years this money, and Nick underperforms the first year, I don't think you dock Nick's pay.
But I don't think you don't just straight up dock it though. You go up and you have that negotiation, which I think is the extension of the tweet. But what do you got, Nick?
Yeah.
This is the easiest kick I think of my life. There's a guy who signed many org contracts, and I'm not going to point any fingers, but the orgs own all the power. It's not they should be able to adjust salary on performance. They hold all the power.
They do.
They can cut you instantly. However, if you start performing well, are you going to get a raise? No. It should be a mutual agreement. I'm all over the place because I'm actually emotional about this one. They have all the power. The players have no power. If they agree to have that person on for so long, it's so much, because it varies by game, it varies by org, it varies by team, it varies by the specific player, how long or how much. If they agree to something and they're willing to sign their org name on that contract, they should be stuck to it too, because the players always get shafted left and right.
Yeah, I love the point you made too, because teams are going to say, oh, you didn't play good enough for me to double your pay. Like I'm paying
It's
you.
got to go both ways.
Yeah.
It does.
So
And it
that would
does.
be a really
I
hard
think that the
topic.
bonuses idea, like of being able to, like, if you place like top 4, top 6 at a major tournament, then like you do get that bonus. But like constantly going back and doubling down on the contracts, like as the current contract is still active, I think is a no-no. But I think overall we do agree that like a performance review can be at least looked at once the contract is over, but readjusting the contract through and through is
blame
if they're gonna
the
fall under
lawyer on the
because they
contract.
just paid too much. And
Yeah.
if we look at yearly based on performance, plus there are other avenues that players can look for if they need extra money. They're just sometimes not willing to put the work in for it, which is up to them. So if they need to focus more on esports, they do that. If not, they can find streaming as well.
Yeah, I think that that's like the passionate side of like this test as well. It's like we just want to see like the organization stay in the esports scene and not blow all of their money. Yeah. So unfortunate to say, I actually won first time on the show, and I got I got the most clutches out of everybody. So that was for you, CJ.
Some say it was rigged.
Just a little bit.
I'm in a this is a Wendy's, and I'm in a Mario shirt, first of all. All right, so moving on, that's Clutch or Kick. Again, if you felt like that, however you felt about any of those moments, let us know the reason and why, if it was a super clutch or a super kick on one way or the other. Just let us know in the comments down below. But now we're going to be moving over towards the spicy part of the segment. Sometimes we like to get a little decisive with our decisions. Sometimes we don't like to make up our minds. But now it's time for the Pickems. We're going to be jumping straight back into VCT Masters. Like I was saying at the beginning of the show, if you scrubbed all the way to this point in time, or you stuck with all of the banter to this moment in time, I thank you, because now we get to finally break down these opening winners round 1 matches for the Valorant Champions Tour Masters Toronto. And as far as the opening round 1 matches are concerned, again, just to highlight everything, it was set that the first seeded teams could pick what matchup that they wanted. So we'll start off with XLG versus Sen, G2 PRX, RRQ Wolves, Fnatic, and Gen G. Let's see how we all decided for XLG and Sen. Seems that we all pretty much agreed on that. Where we ended up disputing a simple fact was a little bit down the line, is that I picked PRX to take down G2. And
it's fine. You hate America.
I don't. But I really respect PRX in this current meta. And let me tell you why. Is that it has a lot to do with the Teo meta. I'm not a generational NA hater. I'm a generational Trent needs to prove that he could play another agent. And I think until I see that, albeit they do have all of the VOD review for PRX playing throughout the entirety of this tournament so far, throughout their fade metas, their double initiator, and their map compositions, I think that G2 are going to have their hands full. PRX, they also like to play Vice compositions. What does Leaf like to play? A whole lot of Vice. So their map pools are realistically super similar. It's going to come down to whichever double initiator is going to be played.
Yeah, I just kind of hate this like narrative that Trent can only play Tejo.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, he played Tejo a lot because it was
the
broken.
most out of everybody.
Well, yeah, but it's like, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But Trent has a long history of being good on like all kinds of characters, right? Controllers specifically. So I don't think that I'm looking for Trent to underperform at all. Also, just G2 is historically such a good dominant team for North America. So like it is part like North American pride where I'm just hanging on to it of like, we have a game. Let's not lose this game, please. Yeah. But I don't expect G2 to underperform here, and I'm not looking at Trent as.
Oh, I'm not saying that it's going to be an underperformance by any stretch of the imagination. I truly do believe that PRX are going to play up to G2. That they might show a certain amount of compositional depth that I don't think that G2 might be able to match. That's all I'm saying.
I think PRX's playstyle is surprise, crazy, chaos.
In your face, yes.
And G2 has played them before, and they've played them well. However, the other side part of this is forget Trent on Tejo. It's G2 3.5 months ago was in the grand finals at Masters Bangkok. Sure. This is the exact same team that has performed in and out over the last 4 months, meta aside. Yeah. To be honest, this is the toughest round 1 matchup, no question about it. This is going to be close as a G2 and an NA fan. I wish they didn't draw Paper Rex because I think Paper Rex is, outside of Gen G, the scariest team on the sheet of paper. Sure.
Well, yeah, Paper Rex, I mean, they did look faulty like a little bit against Liquid, right? So
I mean, they almost lost.
Yeah, I mean,
11-1.
Yeah, they went up 11-1, and then they almost throw that game away. And
insane.
And like, if G2 is in like G2-1, I don't think you're ever going to go up 11-1 on them. But like, if that's G2 there, they're going to just perform so much better than Liquid. Like,
I just don't know what, like, because Jogamo The thing that I respect about Jog is that if it's your room,
mustache?
it's gonna look great. Well, yeah, the mustache is off, but like, I think that Jog on the Yoru, you're gonna get that. He was showing a lot of waylay as well towards the end of the stage split, even against Sentinels, beating them in that grand finals as well. So like again, I'm speaking more of the compositional depth of experience in this current meta. Whatever the scrims look like for G2 behind the scenes, I don't know, but it's scrim bucks. You know what I'm talking about. It's one of those things that you just cannot fully in lie, and I am going with the hard data because I am an analyst. Did I sway your decision, buddy?
Oh, I just want some NA Hopium here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
With them aside,
We got that. We got that. We all picked Sentinels.
That's it. Yeah, and
To be honest,
go
if
on,
anything
it
was
makes
going to
it
go the
even
other
better.
way, it would be XLG beating Sentinels.
Yeah, no, that would have been insane.
Hey,
I don't know.
if I had to put a weight on these first two matchups, I could see XLG beating Sen more than I could see Paper Rex.
Yeah, we all kind of glossed over the fact that we all just like technically picked like the underdog of Sentinels. Like,
Yes, that is the underdog.
mostly because I felt like I needed to defend myself super fast. So I'm sorry. I put up my shield up. I put my shield up. I got super scared. But we got two more round one matchups to go over real quick. And this one's going to be a showdown of the East. RRQ going up against Wolves, and then we also have Fnatic going up against Gen G. And we were again split as far as this first one, RRQ versus Wolves. Was certainly an interesting one because now it's going to be the opposite side. Chris, what did you have? RRQ?
I had RRQ.
I picked Wolves and Fnatic. Kep?
I picked Wolves and Gen G.
Wolves and Gen G as well.
Oh, man.
Man.
Oh boy. Well, Chris, now it's your turn on the hot seat, buddy. Why do you think RRQ were going to beat Wolves? Wolves are the best team of the game right now.
Well,
That's a lie. I
so I actually went back.
Shout out Power Rankings, man.
I actually went back. So you know I like Seafat. I think he's really great,
Yeah,
charismatic. But
Fan of
I
the show, by the
really
way.
looked
Gassed him up earlier. by the way.
at watching Gen G, how well they did. RRQ has beat them going forward. RRQ is super aggressive. I think they can match the aggressiveness of Wolves at a better pace. And I really think that they're going to come in and just not completely destroy, but they're going to really take Wolves to like a part that they haven't been able to go through in this like group stage, playing stage just yet in playoffs. And I think they're going to kind of, push them back into
So you're
the den
saying
a little
like
bit.
Wolves are in bikini bottom and then RRQ are going to take them down to rock bottom?
If you want to say that. I was going to say they're going to put them back in
like
the
that?
game because they're Wolves, but I hope it's it's a really close matchup. I think it could be, but I also think that this is a team that a lot of people are saying Gen G is a really good team. Well, this is the team that beat Gen G. I went back and watched the Gen G versus RRQ. Yes, there are some close spots, but this is still 3-1 in favor of RRQ.
Yeah, I'm really just riding the Wolf hype train right now. Like, it's giving very, like, if you compare it, right, because I did earlier to Counter-Strike, like, this feels like a legacy vibe, right? And I feel like Wolves are playing with a lot of momentum here. So I'm thinking that Wolves, they don't really have anything to lose. They're just going to go, like, all out against RRQ. I just feel like they're going to continue this upset narrative until they meet, I don't want to say a better team, right? Because I don't think I'm educated enough on this team to say that. But RRQ, to me, they're not carrying the same weight as G2 or someone like that.
Yeah, nothing. I think there's two big things. Nothing on the side of Wolves. Nothing beats LAN reps, and Wolves just had 3 LAN series in Toronto that warmed them up for this. They're riding the hot wave. Sometimes being that team waiting, coming out cold, is a big disadvantage. Now, on the other side for RRQ, they have not looked hot recently. If we're talking about G2 and Trent with Tejo, RRQ has not looked hot in their EWC qualifiers leading up to this part, while Wolves has. So I don't think they're going to look good in this opening round matchup, just as MIBR looked like trash and Swish.
I think it also just needs to be a conversation, just the extension off the paper X, just the same thing you can say for RRQ, same thing that we're talking about for Wolves as well, is that when it comes down to the Asia Pacific, the Chinese regions, they actually play on LAN well more than anybody over on the web. Like the EWC qualifiers for both EMEA and NA were actually all online leading into Masters Toronto. Now, before they actually flew to Toronto, the ACL EWC tournament, the one that you're highlighting there, Nick, was actually played on LAN. So the experience certainly be there. I mean, I'm also picking at miniature straws at this point.
On the new patch as well.
And I think that I will agree with the sentiment that if Wolves, if they're going to beat RRQ, it's going to be off of pure grit. It's not going to make sense statistically whatsoever, but it should be a very fun one. But now we got ourselves a little bit of a 2v2, and I'd like to say that we planned this out before we sat down on at the desk, but it's not the case at all. So Chris and I, we are firm believers that Fnatic, the EMEA's hope, the only hope in the bracket will actually get the better of Gen G. And my only reasoning is the meta. I rate Boaster as an IGL. I like that guy. That's all I got.
That's what I
That's all you That's some duo stuff right there, Chris.
No. This is almost too easy because Gen G looks like the second best team in the league right now behind Texture, is playing out of his mind. And then Ash, in that Swiss stage, had the highlight of the tournament so far with that 4K swinging back CT on Haven. It was absolutely insane. And however, if we're talking about, no, but Fnatic won EMEA. EMEA has been so great for so long. Not this tournament, not as of recently. So the fact that Fnatic won EMEA and the rest of those teams are already gone, this should be an easy win for Gen G, no question about it.
Let me hold that mic for you.
I mean, like, in the reality, like, you are speaking mad bars right now. You were spitting mad bars. I'm here for this. We're also in a tournament sphere where, like, half of everything makes sense at this point.
Yeah.
Like, and that is just, like, across the entire world. Like, I'm even bringing in the continuation for Kep here, the Counter-Strike going into the entirety of Valorant. Like, I will go ahead and tag that one for one. Yeah, y'all got a Texture. We got a Crashies and a Chronicle. I think that Chronicle on a Sentinel, no matter the map that he's playing, is going to be a real issue. His Cypher has continuously been a massive issue for the EMEA region. And yeah, they are the last EMEA team because they're the best EMEA team. They are the best players in the entire region, which is why they are continuously up on top.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people would disagree with that point.
Probably.
I remember picking Fnatic on this show to beat Team Heretics. It was kind of just like a vibe check for me.
Yep.
And everyone on the show, like Davis, Nick was on that show as well. They talked about why statistically Heretics have been the best team in that region for this whole split.
Yeah.
They were undefeated going into the playoff bracket. Fnatic, I think many would call it an upset, which sounds strange considering how good this Fnatic roster is.
You're right.
Right? So Fnatic also coming in cold, right? They've been sitting idle. Gen G, already a top team, is warmed up on LAN. I just think a lot of cards are against Fnatic.
It's going to be a little tough.
No Durka, this team isn't the same.
I agree. You got any other defense, or you want me to take one more swing at it? All right. The only other thing that I have realistically is that we just don't know what, like, their double initiator comps look like. I mean, for Chronicle to play on that Cypher means that he's not going to be playing on a secondary smoke as well, which is also very strong. So it's about like a 15% copium. Trust me, the analyst in me totally believes that Fnatic don't stand a single chance in this best of 3 series.
What I'm hearing is changes pick up.
I'm not changing my pick.
like
No, I'm sticking to my gun.
I'm
I got 10 does, man. Deep in the sand. I think Fnatic can keep it scrappy. It might go through, but they'll probably still lose.
You know what's crazy looking at these pick'ems as well is the only regional team that we had a majority winning was G2. The rest we have are upsets. Sentinels, Wolves, and split on Fnatic and Gen G. It's
Counter-Strike rubbing off.
those Swiss stages matter.
I'm telling you that much. All right, well, we're going to have to see how all Valorant plays off. Again, we will go into more in-depth across the entirety of Global Gaming Network channel, whether that's the discussions on Skill Diff, where you want to join me and Chris on Today in Esports. We're going to be covering just about everything to do with the Valorant Champions Tour, not to mention the day-to-day updates for Today in Esports. But bring back up the Pickems because now we are done with Valorant. Now we can talk about some League of Legends. And we got LTA North. And all the playoffs that we were talking about are going to be concluding this upcoming weekend. So starting off, we do have that lower final matchup in between Shopify Rebellion versus Cloud9. And then the winner of that goes to grand finals. Chris, who you got?
I have Cloud9.
All the way.
All the way.
Wow.
All the way.
I got
All
Cloud9
the
and
way.
FQ. Yep.
There it is.
Yep. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
also,
What do you got, Kep?
I'm also Cloud9 FlyQuest.
Cloud9 FlyQuest as well.
Look at that. The three-peat. We've got one oddball.
We don't need
we got one
Of
oddball.
course, it's Chris.
Do we need to drag Shopify through the mud anymore in that lower bracket final since we all agree that it's Cloud9?
I don't necessarily think I want to drag them through the mud, but I do want to
got-
highlight
It'll be a
that-
3-1.
I do
They
want to
got
highlight
there.
that I think they have potential, right?
Sure.
What Shopify's strength seems to be right now with Contracts and team is delaying the game and really like confusing the better teams in the mid game is what I would say. And they've been having these like super late games as far as the matches go. But I just think Contracts, I think Fudge and Palafox, if people are calling him Palafaker right now, like there's potential here where they could beat Cloud9, but statistically I just can't buy into it these days. I just think Cloud9 are well too put together of a team, far above Liquid. So I don't know if
well, I mean, no, we agree that like at the end, like Cloud9 will be the better team to Shopify. Whatever that route may be, it could be 5, it could be 4. If it's Silver Scrapes, we're in for a good time. But what I mostly want to focus on is that grand finals. Why? Why do you think Cloud9 are finally going to get it done versus FQ, man?
Because consistently we are seeing Cloud9 get better at what they previously had done worse at. First game, they completely let Thanatos and Loki get run over. Thanatos is getting jumped on. I said this last time, one thing FlyQuest is really good, they overload one side of the map and they take objective on the other side. So that way they're in a win-win. This time when they played Cloud9 FlyQuest, they weren't able to really shut down Thanatos as hard as they did in their first series in seeding. Now, it should have been a 3-1 in my opinion. They should have won Cloud9 should have won game 2, and then game 3, game 4, they win those series is over. They make one mistake. Of course, FlyQuest is the type of team that can capitalize and take over and take the game to it. And I think this time they don't make the mistake in bot lane where they get Renata queued and then just fall over because we're seeing Vulcan blow and Emilio ult on a set pool. You know, they know that the set is there for Whippo now, and I think they're able to make adjustments. They have Reaper, who is an amazing coach. They have amazing players, and I think that they will be able to kind of turn around what they lost with and then move on.
No, I think Chris has a lot of good points there for Cloud9. I just think that at the end of the day, like FlyQuest champ pool is a little deeper. I think that they're more stacked for more outrageous situations. So especially when we go down Fearless Draft, right? Like we finally got to see FlyQuest tested a little bit in deep waters going to Game 5. And what they proved there coming down to that Game 5 is that they can adapt more than Cloud9 there, pulling out the zigs. I just don't think that that Sven can play AP champs in the AD carry role. I mean, his whole history has been traditional AD carries. His Zeri performance in Game 5 was not good. And I think that if you can hone in on that bot lane, we're going to see Masu and Bosio just win that, 9 out of 10 times, right? When you just go pure off matchups and champs that are available in Fearless Draft. So I think they're deeper. Blippo, he does have a lot of picks with Set. He's got the Cho'Gath, which was there in Game 1, but I think he's going to learn from those Game 3, Game 4's your point. He's not going to pick a Shin again against, and we're not going to give Thanatos and Bessa anymore.
Who knows, man? We're going to have to stay glued to our seats and watch as there's so many different esports that are happening. I think that one's going Silver Scrapes, though. It has to between those two teams. With all the preparation, with everything else that we just discussed in between you two guys as well, I think that one's for sure going Silver Scrapes. But that said, FlyQuest are still winning. Sorry, not sorry. Anyway, moving on from LTA North, now we're going to go into Counter-Strike. And as far as this entire building is concerned, in the studio as a whole, across all of our shows, we've constantly been bickering as who is the best Counter-Strike team, not always just in the entirety of the world, but as far as a stage-to-stage is concerned. Now, the Austin Major has, again, been kicking off while we've been in here. These guys over on my left have been really gritting their teeth as to whatever happened with the Mongols. We still have no idea, but we do have some office Pickems to be talking about, and a good chunk of us have some explaining to do, and a good chunk of one of us is going to be very happy with what happened today. So I'm going to go ahead and start. My bad. I did not mean to disrespect fully. I thought that Vitality were going to come in and continue to be dominant. Sure, that's on me. I didn't even have Legacy on there at all. But Cap, what?
I mean, I really, to be completely honest, with Stage 2, I alluded to this earlier. I knew that as soon as Legacy won 3-0 in the group, I told everyone in the group chat, I'm locking in Legacy to upset Vitality Game 1. I think that Vitality have shown a lot of faults in single games, right? And that's why, when we talked about the clutch or kick a few weeks ago of, was Nip's win more impressive? I said Nip's win was far more impressive because you can't take a day off, right, in a best-of-1. Mm-hmm. Vitality, if we went purely based off the same standards that Nip was held to, they'd never have this impressive streak because they've dropped maps to Falcons, they've dropped maps to Maus before. So Legacy, Virtus Pro, they just had phenomenal performances in Stage 2. It felt safe to pick them going 3-0. Their more aggressive playstyle is going to upset that traditional Counter-Strike in Maus and Vitality. We saw both those upsets. I ripped off that Band-Aid earlier already. And I'm just looking forward to putting, I put all those top teams there in the 3-1, 3-2 stage, really because I'm trying to get up to a gold coin. Diamonds out of the picture for me.
Respect. Let me rip off more Band-Aids for you as well before we continue on with all the rest of our pick'ems. Mongols lost.
Oh,
Mongols lost, and Lin Vision won versus TL.
Oh, I did pick that.
Yeah, I mean, like, how you do not be riding the high of Late Vision?
I wish, in production, if you do this in the little bit of time we have left, that'd be magical. But like my Pickems, I put a tweet out earlier on my Twitter of like my matchups. I stole Pimp's like his format of it, and I picked the match. I'm like almost banging it out, but FaZe was my upset against Aurora. They dropped the ball.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
So. As far as your Pickems are concerned, how you sitting besides Vitality, buddy?
Well, apparently Fury had just ruined one of my 0-3 picks as well, but I think Namiga's streak ends here, unfortunately, and they're going to go 0-3. But the rest of it looking pretty good there in the middle. I think everything's going to work out.
If I understand correctly, this is the first time Mongols have lost a match in like a Switch stage Counter-Strike major. So.
I think we're seeing a lot of teams struggle with like the best of ones. I think like the best of one veto process and just like sitting down and playing like that best of one when you have been sitting for 2 stages now become a little bit tedious, I suppose. But you and I are still doing okay. We still picked Spirit to be 3-0, so we're still
I have
chilling.
one. So I did pick Legacy to go 0-3, not in the fact that I actually wanted to go 0-3. I was kind of hoping that they would use my energy of how bad I did in stage 2 for Pickems, that they would actually make it out. Because my 0-2s as well did well on those ones. So now I did have Lim Vision winning because I couldn't really put them. So I want to see more interviews from them. So I do hope that they go the 3-2 or 3-1 so we can get more of those.
Sure.
Of course, Vitality losing. But Spirit, I kind of hope Donk really shows out. So I do hope they get that 3-0 and kind of like propels him forward so he can get more. Because, he's still been a little upset that they missed a couple of the tournaments. So he's finally here. I hope he's able to slay out and show, that maybe the rest was a little good for him. And then he's able to go forward.
Yeah, the one team not going through any roster mania one of the few teams not going through any roster mania should be.
Yeah, but I think they should. I mean, like, at the end
they just won PJ Astana. I know nobody was there, but
yeah, I mean, like you beat you went to like the McDonald's playpen and you beat up some kids. Like I don't understand. Like
McDonald's were you going to as a child?
He forgets that the Mongols were there, by the way.
Oh, they were at the McDonald's playpen.
Oh,
it all makes sense.
I mean, Spirit. I mean, it's pretty much just like with Spirit. It's very similar to like a Falcons in my mind. Is like instead of a Nico and Monacy, it is a how good does Shiro and Donk do? Donk always does good, but it's can Shiro back him up? So that first game they played earlier, Shiro was going absolutely
Chopper's calls also need to be like on point as well. And that's been the entire conversation about their entire boot camp is like they need to like get back into their repertoire of being able to play reactionary Counter-Strike. It's what they do really well is letting Donk lurk. And that all comes from like the IGL and Shiro backing him up with the AWP, so on and so forth. But before I fully close it out for all of Counter-Strike, I suppose we might as well leave it with this last little remark. Does the 0-1 loss count? Do you actually technically count that as breaking the streak?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
Easy. Yeah. I mean, it's not even a conversation. I think it's silly that, like, even the commentators were trying to set that up on the broadcast just to call those guys out. Like, I mean, because before they're comparing them to Liquid, they're comparing them to Nip and the streak. So you can't, if you lose in a best of one, you can't suddenly not compare them anymore, right? So it's just a silly narrative. I hate the casters even set it up for the Vitality fanboys like Patrick over on Skill Diff to just even have something to latch on.
He actually pointed perfectly through the wall where Pat is more than likely sitting, just in case anybody was fully aware. But as final remarks, that was fantastic, guys. I had a very fun time sitting here and listening to you guys yap and laugh about all the different parts about esports. It was a real fun time. I hope.
Yeah, welcome to your first queued up. Thanks for bringing new graphics with you.
Oh, I had nothing to do with that. That's Mr. P. Lovey Boy on the other side. Shout out all production, specifically for Eli, J-Dog, and Clover, of course, for putting up everything to do with the studio. And on behalf of everybody involved on the other side of the wall, and if you're just watching at home, all of this is for you. Hope you had a fun time watching today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one.